Hi, welcome back to Warrior Theology Podcast. We are now in the second part of our podcast, which is to deal with a biblical sexual ethic. And if you recall, we are deriving the vast majority of our argument from a literal rendering of this Song of Solomon. I am almost Dr. Peter Van Cleek with my dad, already Dr. Peter Van Cleek. And his doctoral dissertation was on the preaching of a Song of Solomon from the pulpit, and in doing it through a literal rendering of the text. That is, not treating it as a type, right, or as a metaphor, or an allegory. So we are now into chapter 3. If you saw last week's podcast, we just kind of gave an introduction to chapter 3, that it is a dream sequence. And we've just been going through it verse by verse. And so we're going to pick up in chapter 3, verse 1, and just start to break down this dream sequence. It'd be good, Dad, if they haven't seen the last one, just give them maybe a minute or two of the 3 criteria or 4 criteria that you had for why we would render it a dream sequence. Okay. And then let's just break right into the material.
Okay. First of all, it does not specifically say it's a dream sequence. So we go by these 3 things. First of all, in verse 1, it says, "By night on my bed, I sought him." So we have the idea that she is sleeping there. If you let's see, it also tells us in verse 2, it says, "I will rise now and go about the city." The idea that she's going to get up. So we have little indication there that she's sleeping. The second is that the events in this passage quickly follow one another without logical connections, which is what dreams do. I mean, it's just this, and there's no connection, which we know about dreams. It's just this instance and this instance and this instance, and there's no connectors. And the third thing is when it comes to these watchmen, the way she describes the watchmen, it helps us immensely, because the watchmen are expected to already know who the Shulamite is, that she's Solomon's bride to be. And then after she asks for their help, not long after that, she finds Solomon herself. That's not only true about the watchmen in the dream, but it also ties in with point number 2, that there's no connections here. It's just one thing after another. And when you read it that way, it's like the dreams we have. I mean, it's just one event after another. And in dreams, we don't have to have connections. It's just you're here, you're there, this happens, that happens. And that's what we have in this passage. So let's go down here to starting in verse 1, getting right into the text. It says, "By night on my bed I sought him whom my soul loveth. I sought him, but found him not." The word night here is plural, which means this is something that didn't just happen once. This is something that when she lays down, she can't stop thinking about him. She has these dreams about him because her love for him fills her. And you know, when you go to bed with something on your mind, often you have a dream, and that's what's happening here. So we have this plural for the nights, or night after night, the idea that she has this dream about him. And then twice it says, "I sought him." It says, "I sought him whom my soul loveth." I sought him. Both are intensive in the Hebrew. I mean, it demonstrates intensity. Night after night, she sought him with great intensity. She wanted the company of Solomon, but in the dream, if you can imagine, night after night, she has this great intensity to seek him, but she can't find him. I mean, that's how this all starts. And we said that this is the idea or the truth that should exist in a soul before they're married. I mean, this is the guy, and the same thing about the ladies. And there's no wrong in this, beloved. That's the other thing, because it's true sacred love. All right, it's true godly love. So sacred godly love established by God and sanctioned by his word can be experienced with great intensity. That's the point. It should be experienced with great intensity. It can be experienced with great intensity. No matters of conscience to interrupt its pure simplicity, because it's right. it's the right thing. So matters of conscience are not there to hem it in. It is a full expression. It is this kind of intensity of love for your beloved. No conscious knowledge of disobedience and certain knowledge that this love is blessed and ordained by God. If God is in it, this should not, your conscience should not be pricked, or it should not be hemmed in when you have this kind of love for the one that God has brought to you. This is true liberty. It's true liberty in a marriage relationship. It is wonderful. So within this sphere, we can experience the highest intensity of sacred love, resulting in a longing to be with the one that's loved. This is what God wants for us, not just being loved. You know, it's not just being loved, it's being loved intensely. I saw. I have dreams about him night after night. I mean, I want to be with him. And then at the end of verse 1, after all of that, I can't find him. What a dream. All right. So that's how chapter 3 begins.
Yeah, I think it's important to note here too that it is her that is seeking. Right? We said this at the very beginning of this series, and that is that the Shulamite is often the actor, right? She is the impetus, the force moving the relationship forward. Now, that's not to say that this is like a Sadie Hawkins thing, or that the woman is the one who's proposing to the man. That's not what's going on. What it is saying, though, is that she has the freedom, the liberty to initiate and to demonstrate that it is her that is seeking. She doesn't have to be this one who just kind of sits like, you know, the lady in waiting, like we're hoping that the prince comes and calls on me. There's a very real sense in which she is seeking him, and it's manifesting itself in this dream. And we're going to see this not just in this dream sequence, but we're going to see it throughout the song, and we have seen it, that she is the prime actor. When we're gonna come back and we're gonna work on some of these details later in the podcast once we get through the song. But when you look at Tremper Longman, I think he's got her. She's the actor like 2 out of every 3 times or something. Like 66% of the time, she's the prime actor, and Solomon is the receiver of the action. So there's a very real sense in which the woman is at liberty here to, in many contexts, to take the reins and be like, I'm going to go after him. In this particular case would be one of those.
Yes, and the further along in the song we get, the more you're going to see that. I mean, so we come to verse 2. It says, I will rise now, go about the city in the streets, and in the broad ways I will seek him whom my soul loveth. And there's my soul loveth again, nephesh, whole person love. I sought him, but I found him not, and was still looking. Another reason we argue that this is a dream sequence is because the city is unnamed, all right, and we're arguing that she is in her country home here. So she's not in the city. She's in the country, but the dream, she's in a city, all right? So the city is unnamed, and if this is a dream, it's no specific city or context is required. We don't need any of that. It's just a city. You know, I mean, dreams don't have markers, all right? So what is she saying? Her love for Solomon preempts things we cherish. So her love for her preempts these things, comes before these things. A good night's sleep, because in the middle of the night in her dream, she gets up to look for him. In the middle of the night, it preempts her own comfort. That is, she's up in the middle of the night in a region there in the ancient Near East, or the night chill, she's just outside. And her own personal protection. That is, she is a young lady, the inherent dangers of being alone at night in a city. All of those things are placed second to the intensity she has to seek out that one whom her soul loveth. So all of these things are tertiary, secondary, because her focus is on him. So putting action to her desires, she arises from her bed in the night, enters an unnamed city, and in the streets and in the broadways where open air markets would be situated, seeks her beloved Solomon. And for a second time, she laments that she could not find him, which brings us then to verse 3. And these watchmen, they just show up. In verse 3, it says, the watchmen that go about the city found me, to whom I said, saw ye him whom my soul loveth? So you got these guards around town keeping an eye on things, local constables. She goes up to the constables in the middle of this and says, do you know where my soul, the one whom my soul loveth, is? Well, can you imagine that? I mean, there's no data here, right? She's just saying this. So what do we learn? What are these watchmen doing? They're doing their job. They found a single woman searching the streets at night. The image conveys the idea of vigilance and fulfilled responsibility. The Shulamite enlists their help to help find Solomon. And together, this figure heightens the Shulamite's determination, and that's the key. Not only is she determined to find him, she solicits help to help her find him. All right?
Yeah.
What?
This is kind of weird, though, because
it is weird.
It's here in chapter 3, and then when you jump over to chapter 5, like when I've taught through this, it just struck me. The watchmen, you'd think if they know where anybody is, they're going to know where the king is. So these people are supposed to know who's wandering the streets. They're supposed to know what's going on at night, because that's part of protecting a walled city. But they can't find the king.
Well, it's just, I get all that. It's just in this passage, she only describes him. It'd be like a woman running up to a policeman and saying, where's my husband?
Right, but this is the king is my point. And they don't.
Or I know, but they're not married yet. Where's, and there's no description here that it's Solomon yet.
Right, well, the other thing is they don't help, right? We're going to see that in the next verse.
Right.
They don't help here, and then when you go to chapter 5, they actually accost her.
Right.
Still, it's the same actor, though. It's the watchmen as actors. Here, it's as if they're totally unaware where Solomon would be, and in fact, they don't follow her around and help her because she leaves their side. And then when you get into 5, they accost her. So I don't know. For me, I've also used this as kind of pointing to the idea that maybe this is a dream, because this is not, like, these guys should be looking out for her, like, stay with us, we'll help you. No, they don't.
Yeah, I agree. The reason that what we're saying here, I mean, is open for question, is because it is a dream. There's not connectors here.
Yeah.
Everything is so loose. And that's why exegetes in the past, and I embrace that, argued that this is just a disassociated parts of a dream that are a reflection of her love. And so you have players in it, but the players are like something to bounce her love off of, rather than being intricate parts of the entire event. It's not really an event. It's just that it's part of the story, because the focus of the story is seeking her husband. And in this case, yes, she doesn't get any help.
Right.
So yeah, you get down to verse 4. It was but a little that I passed from them, but I found him that my soul loveth. See, and there you have it. It's only a little bit of time after she speaks to the watchman that she finds him. Let's go back to the dream thing just for a second. I mean, doesn't she know that he's in the palace? I mean, she finds him in the streets. I mean, it's not that. It's not a location. It's in a dream where she finds him, so to speak, within this context. It says, I found him that my soul loveth. I held him and would not let him go. And then she switches down here until I brought him into my mother's house, into the chamber of her that conceived me. I mean, you talk about one thing after another. She gets up from her bed. She goes into the street. She can't find him. She talks to the watchman. The watchmen don't help. A little bit later after that, she finds him, and then she takes him from the city to her mother's house. I mean, we just take it verse by verse, but that's why we argue that I mean this thing that's it's disassociated. It's just all these little bits and pieces. The word here that says, when she said, I held him and would not let him go, it means to seize and not to slacken. That once she got a hold of him, one commentator called it gentle violence. That's the Hebrew. To cling to the one she loves with gentle violence. Now, usually we don't put those words together, right? But it's with that intensity. This whole thing, it's like, in her heart and in her mind, in this dream, everything is intense. But this is what the text tells us about her love for him. Gentle violence. She seized him when not slacking her grasp on him. She is not letting him go. And I remember preaching this. You just hang on and not let go. There's no way. I mean that means something. And that's what she's doing here. And then it goes on, the image is one of never letting him go, never allowing them to be separated again. That is, with the fear, so to speak, within the dream that if I ever let go of him, then I'll not see him again. So there's no way he's ever going to be outside of my embrace. That's the picture. It just talks about the intensity of her love, that when she talks about whom my soul loveth, this is just an expression of it. So. And which then brings them down to the mother's house, which is an interesting thing. It's not just going to her home in this dream. It's not simply that. It says, until I had brought him into my mother's house and into the chamber of her that conceived me. That is, she took her groom, the man that she's going to marry, into the bedroom of her mother's house. All right, that's what's happening here. And just some things here. Let me see. The Shulamite's first step after embracing Solomon was to take him to meet her mother. All right, that's why in the text here, most people argue, well, you can't find a dad in here. You find brothers and sisters and a mother, but no dad. All right. For whatever reason, the father is excluded from the Song of Solomon. That's just a very interesting thing. The mother is here, sisters here, brothers are here. You see that especially you see it chapter 1 and chapter 8, but no dad. So the Shulamite takes Solomon to meet her mother. A daughter who knew what she was going to do would be disapproved of, who knew that what she was doing would be disapproved of by her mother, would not hasten to her house. What we're saying is that if a young lady is doing the wrong thing, they are not going to take their boyfriend, I never use that term, but Solomon, to see your mother. Because the mother, especially a mother into your mother's bedroom, I even thought about that. The idea of your mother's bedroom, I mean, that is a very intimate place. There's a lot going on in her head. She just knows that what she's doing is right. Rather, she would, if she was doing the wrong thing, she would rather seek her own path while ignoring the counsel of her mother. But her mother's approval was in the forefront of the Shulamite's thinking. And I did this in marriage counseling, and that is one of the questions I asked is, and it was very important to me that when two people were being married, can you hear that?
Okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Did they have the approval of mom and dad? That is, did they approve of the girl and the boy? That was very important to me. Now, there's circumstances, I have circumstances where the parents were, for whatever reason, there was unreasonable purpose, things said on why they couldn't be married. But I think this idea as laid out here is that the parental approval, I think, is pointed out here, that the mom and the dad should approve of the one that's being married. I think it's borne out here in this passage. So, and I implemented that. I don't think there was ever an instance where I ever married anybody or officiated at a marriage, a wedding, where the mom and dad didn't approve of it. But here, as soon as he gets a hold of her, she takes her to his mother's house, and not just to the house, but to her bedroom. The Shulamite knew that her mother would recognize the same godly qualities she did in Solomon, and that Solomon would be someone she would approve of. And that's what we're looking for here. Is this guy something that my mom and dad approved of? So
yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Okay.
But, certainly, when you jump over to verse 11 of the same chapter,
yeah,
you have this same thing, right? The same theme, and we
Yeah.
don't need to develop it because we want to do 11.
Okay.
But here again, you will see. So where she takes him to see her mom, you're going to see language of Solomon's mom now coming into the
Right.
situation, and particularly the day of espousal and the gladness of his heart, right? So there's going to be, the point is that family, I don't know if you would say like they get a say, like they get to like say yes or no, but there is definitely within the Song of Solomon chapter 3, the role of parents in speaking with, or in, it's not speaking, it's affirming the choice of their husband or wife to be. So anyway, that puts us like right to the minute. If we can hang out right there, what is that? That's the end of 4. Did you want to do 5? Maybe we can go a couple minutes longer and that'll get us out of the dream.
Let's see. Sure. So in 5, it just says, I charge you, all ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and the hinds of the field, that ye stir not up nor awake my love till he please. The Shulamite in the arms of Solomon charges the ladies of the palace not to awaken her husband to be. The word adjure here, to charge, to entreat solemnly. And basically what she's saying here is, I adjure thee by creatures that represent elegance, softness, and loveliness, by animals that roam freely through the fields, not to awaken Solomon. The Shulamite seeks to guard the love Solomon has for her, to comfort her during this time of heightened emotions. And she tells the ladies of the court to let him rest. So this verse depicts the dynamic of true biblical love. The love of the wife or the husband is to rise to the level of great intensity, urgency, and determination. And though this specific admonition is not included in Ephesians 5, this truth is borne out in Solomon's song. So that
Excellent.
that brings us to the end of that.
So that brings us to the end of this particular podcast for this week. As you guys know, like, favorite, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. These kinds of things are a huge help to us, just being able to start conversations, not just here on our channel, but start conversations wherever you are. If this is something that would be a help to you, or something that's kind of stirring the pot for you, worthy of conversation around your dinner table or your classroom, then by all means, share it. This would be a huge help to us. So this is Warrior Theology Podcast. I am Peter Van Cleek with my dad, Peter Van Cleek, and we'll see y'all next week.
So if you like this video, maybe you'd like some others. Take a look around.